Did you know that a battery chicken lives on a space smaller than an average iPad? This is just one of the many disturbing facts that we're going to go over surrounding factory farming. Today I want to talk to you guys about what factory farming is and its effects on us as humans, the animals, and even the environment. Currently in the United States, factory farming is considered a legal and necessary way of farming animal products for consumption. And most of us, including myself, eat meat and dairy on a regular basis. And if you're one of those people that do eat meat and dairy on a regular basis like me, you should be worried about the detrimental effects that it has on human health. And if you consume these, then it should be something that worries you as well. And that is why I believe factory farming should be banned. The first point I want to talk about is the health risks for the consumers and the employees. You can only imagine the copious amounts of chemicals that we're ingesting when the animals in factory farms are constantly being pumped full of antibiotics because of their unnatural and unhealthy living conditions. In an article I found on the health in factory farming, it read 70% of antibiotics used in the United States are administered to livestock specifically. And you can only imagine how much that is when out of 100% of antibiotics administered, only 30% go to people and 70% go to livestock. Employees in factory farms are also at risk of consumption of chemicals because of the environments they work in. In an article I read on PETA, it said that a doctor by the name of Dr. Ellen found that more than 40% of chicken catchers and 50% of processed plant workers were infected with a bacterial infection that infected their stomach and gave them diarrhea, vomiting, and even sometimes proved to be fatal. Humans on a daily basis are constantly ingesting different types of chemicals, whether it's through the air, through the food we eat, through things we drink, through things we smoke, all kinds of different things. And if we were to ban factory farming, that is just one super simple way for us to rid of one chemical that we're consuming through the types of food we eat. The next thing I want to talk to you guys about is one that most people often hear about, and that's the animal abuse. The most common horror story a lot of people hear when they hear about factory farming is about the chickens. Chickens, in an essay an author wrote about factory farming, he wrote that adult chickens are often debeaked, which is when they cut off the tip of the beak with a hot knife so that they won't peck the other chickens in the thing to death. Another common horror story we often hear is about the cattle or the pigs. So, like humans, cows produce milk as a side effect of having babies or giving birth. So, in order to keep milk flow production going, cows are artificially inseminated once a year for up to 4 years in factory farms. And then after they're done producing children, they're then used for meat. Animals, just like us, feel pain and suffering. They have basic animal rights, and they feel things for themselves, for their babies. They feel pain, suffering, and different types of emotions. In the unnatural and unhealthy way that they're being raised in factory farms restricts them from those basic animal rights, like being able to roam freely and just carry out normal animal behaviors, which could boost serotonin and reduce stress levels. The last thing I want to talk about is the negative effects it has on the environment. Toxins and chemicals are constantly being pumped into the environment, into the oceans and rivers in our world today. And a lot of it is because of factory farming. In an article I read on the PETA website, it said every second factory farms create roughly 89,000 pounds of waste, which contain highly concentrated chemicals and bacterial toxins. Other than the water pollution that factory farm creates, they also create a lot of air and ozone pollution with their greenhouse gas emissions. In fact, factory farm sectors account for 9% of human-induced emissions, 37% emissions of methane, 18% greenhouse gas emissions, and 65% emissions of nitrous oxide. And that's all just from factory farms. And in the world today, we're obviously going through a global climate change. We are facing a lot of different types of pollution in the world, and anything that can be done should be done to prevent it. And banning factory farming would be one step closer to reducing our global footprint and getting rid of one very broad and very harsh type of pollution. A lot of common rebuttals we often hear about factory farming is cheaper for meat. And while that does sometimes prove to be true, the extra cost you're usually paying for animals that aren't going through factory farming goes towards the quality of animal products and the animal care. letting them live in free-range environments so they're boosting their serotonin and they're not stress-induced the whole time they're alive, and they're not constantly being pumped full of antibiotics. In factory farms, pigs spend most of their entire lives in crates so small they can't even turn around. And on higher welfare farms, farmers spend more on land and facilities than they do on producing meat, and that's why the animals are better cared for, and that's why we normally get better products. Another common rebuttal I often hear is, factory farms aren't the only negative effect on the environment. And yes, that's true. There's obviously a lot more different types of pollution caused by the environment, but factory farm contributes to a lot more pollution than many other things. And the types of pollution that factory farms contribute to, we can easily avoid and reduce. For example, in 2011, an Illinois hog farm spilled 200,000 gallons of manure into a creek, killing more than 110,000 fish. And that's something that could easily be avoided if factory farms were to be banned. So, in conclusion, during this speech, I talked to you guys a lot about why factory farms should be banned in the United States for a multitude of different reasons. We discussed the harmful effects on the environment, the consumers and employees, and even the animals, and the inhumane living conditions of them. So next time you're taking a bite of that burger, or you're taking that sip of milk, or taking a sip of the milkshake, just think about how that product got into your hand and what process it went through to get into that place in your hand, and decide if that's the type of product you want to be supporting. Thank you.